going to bring out the very second live-action Black Canary ever. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Alaina Huffman.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Hi, everyone.
Is this your first time in the Midwest at a convention, or have you been out?
Yes, unless you count Chicago. That's Midwest, right?
Chicago can't.
Yeah.
We don't talk about Chicago.
No. Then yes.
Okay, so Stargate Universe, Smallville, Painkiller Jane. You've done a lot of genre work.
Yes.
What keeps you coming back to it?
I keep getting hired.
Now, in Maxim magazine, though, you said you totally geeked out over Black Canary.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you?
I love that you just quoted Maxim magazine.
How long have you been a fan of science fiction?
Well, it's sort of a question. I think the work got me interested in the genre, so it wasn't something that I was innately always interested in. But I spent a lot of years. Early on, when I was 14, 15, 16, I was a model in Tokyo, and I was always really amazed at the attention that Japanese anime got. It wasn't something that I really got into, but I always thought it was so fascinating how many people were interested in it. And then years later, when I started doing this science fiction work, really when Smallville hired me to be Black Canary, I didn't know who she was, and so I looked her up, and my first reaction was like, seriously, I have to wear that costume? And yeah, at the time I had 2 kids, I have 3 now, and I was like, really, guys, you want me to wear that? And they did a really good job, I think. I think they made the costume really great, and it's very functional, except for the heels. My heels always get caught in my fishnets when I do stunts. It's kind of funny. I'm always like, oh, hold on, guys, we got to do it again. I got caught in my fishnets. But so then I started reading a lot about the Black Canary and reading her books, and I did totally geek out. And then the first episode I did of Smallville, we had a big fight in the Luthor mansion, and there was Lex Luthor, and there was Green Arrow, and there was Black Canary, and Superman came and saved me, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, your approach to Black Canary, how is that different, or how is it similar from your approach to playing TJ on Stargate?
Oh, well, they're totally different characters. So I like that they're both a little sort of tough, kind of badass, and then they don't play this in Smallville. I think that it's kind of an opportunity that was missed, and maybe they'll do a spin-off or something. They do talk about it, but I don't know how real it is. I feel like there's a lot of vulnerability that can be explored with Dinah Lance and that whole love interest and storyline between her and Green Arrow. So if that were ever to be explored, I think there'd be a little more similarities between her and TJ. TJ cries a lot. But she's still tough. And she saves lives. I guess they're similar in some ways.
So, between Smallville, Stargate, and Painkiller Jane, which character has been for you the most satisfying to play? Just as an actor, not necessarily as a genre fan, but just which one of those has challenged you as an actor more?
Definitely, I would say TJ, because I had a long run with her. To be able to be a part of a show day in and day out for the two seasons that we got to do, I had a lot of connection with the TJ character. With Smallville, it was sort of in and out over the last several seasons, and so though it's a great character to play and it's really fun, I didn't have as many opportunities to play it as I would have liked.
So you're talking about a spinoff. How seriously have they been discussing that?
Oh, I mean, when I first got hired on Smallville, they'd walk past me down the hall in the studio and be like, Black Canary Tuesday nights, and I was like, okay. They talked about a Supergirl spinoff. That hasn't happened. They talked about an Aquaman spinoff. They attempted it. I think ideally they just want to continue making a great show that's comic book based, and I don't know how serious it is.
Your heritage, Hungarian, Bosnian, in your lineage, You're no?
No, Croatian, Scottish, and Dutch.
How much of that do you bring to your work?
I'm Canadian. So not a whole lot.
No?
No.
Okay. Let's see here. Started acting at age 13, and then modeling. How different was that for you as a teenager to be in that environment?
Well, I started acting. It was something that always sort of interested me, and I read about it in the paper when I was I think I was 12, maybe 13. I had seen there was an audition downtown Vancouver. I lived in Vancouver. And I told my parents, I'm just going to go downtown today and audition for a TV show. And they're like, okay. So I hopped on the bus and I went downtown and I stood in this big line at CBS Studios, or CBC Studios in Canada. And they had this big general audition, and I just kept on going through the rounds and making the cut and making the cut. And I ended up with one of the lead roles on this show. And we shot the pilot. And then I was, a few weeks later after we shot the pilot, it never got picked up, but I was discovered, I guess, in a shopping mall, and I was asked if I was interested in modeling. And then from there, that sort of took over, and I worked successfully as a model for several years. And then when I moved to Texas, kind of a long story, I lived in Tokyo, and then I lived in Germany. And then my parents moved to Texas, and so I went with them when I was 18. I moved from Germany to Texas, and that was a big culture shock. Texas is a very different place. I like it. But I moved there, and I was modeling there, and this was kind of around the time where Austin was really coming up, and a lot of people were doing. Sandra Bullock just opened her studios in Austin, and Steven Spielberg was doing movies in Austin, and a lot of stuff was coming up there. So the independent market was really buzzing, and this was also the time where less models were on the covers of magazines and more actresses were on the covers of magazines, and so there was a big conscious shift from models in turning into actors, and I was like, well, I know how to act. I like to anyways. And so my agency had opened a division, an acting division, and I went on a few auditions, and I booked the first movie I did, which was called Pendulum, and that was with Rachel Hunter, who was a model turned actress, and then from there I just kept on booking small independent roles, and then I made the move out to Los Angeles. And then but it's very different. It's a whole different world. It's still, a career that you have to constantly reinvent yourself for. You have to constantly build your resume, and it's still in the entertainment business, but it's a very different career.
Now, after your success as Black Canary and TJ, all of these different roles that you've had lately, is it easier for you to go through the audition process now, or is it still just as much of a challenge for you going in, having the track record that you do? Do you find yourself still having to go and put in as much effort?
Yes. Absolutely, it's all, and always will be. I think that it's always funny because even like Ming-Na on Stargate, people are like, you still audition for things? And she's like, every day. I mean, maybe you're in a little bit of a better position because you have a stronger resume, but yeah, absolutely. They're always looking for the next star to come up. So you're always sort of in the race. I'm at the place in my career where sort of the industry knows who you are, and yet you're not quite as valuable to them as maybe someone else. So I'm usually second or third choice on a lot of movies or a lot of shows, and hopefully it's a matter of time before I'm first choice. But I mean, I was up for X-Men First Class, for Emma Frost. I think I'd make a good Emma Frost.
So,
don't you? I was up for G.I. Joe. I met with Stephen Summers, and I walked out of the office. I was like, he loves me. I'm totally going to get the job. Then I read on IMDb they gave it to Sienna Miller. What?
I hear Zack Snyder is casting for some little film he's working on now, but
right.
Yeah.
That little thing.
That little thing.
Well, the great thing is I do get the opportunity to read for a lot of those things. But yeah, I mean, it's always, I've been up for the last 3 episodes of NCIS Los Angeles. And usually, or I just read for 17th Precinct, Ron
Ron Moore.
Ron Moore's, thank you. I was going to say Ron Howard. Ron Moore's new show, and same thing. It's we love you, you're great, you're just not right for this role. Thank you.
Now, do you want to stay in the genre, or are you wanting to just do whatever roles come to you, or you want to focus on any one particular aspect of your career now?
I want to do movies. I want to do big, epic movies. I want to do all of it, though. I mean, ideally, my goal would be to do a good, strong, recurring role on a show like NCIS Los Angeles or CSI or one of these shows that, get 20-something million viewers a week, and then you have a profile, and then people want to put you in their movies.
The success that you've had lately and the notoriety that it's brought, how has that changed things now having 3 kids? What adjustments have you had to make at home? Is that something that's really made a big impact, or you guys just kind of adjusted along the way?
Yeah, it's adjustable. I feel really lucky. I feel like I've been able to build my career as I've built my family, and so it was sort of like TJ. I was actually pregnant on Stargate. That's kind of a funny story. I'll tell that one later. But anyways, okay, that one was good. I got pregnant during the pilot of Stargate, and we were a straight 20-episode pickup, so we didn't have a pilot period, but we shot a pilot. And I was about the 3rd episode in. I was like, oh, I don't feel good. And I just thought maybe we were working a lot. And then I called Brad and Rob into my trailer, and I was like, so guys, I wasn't feeling that great this weekend. And Rob, who also has 3 kids, was like, congratulations. and so we talked about how it would work into the storyline, and that we knew that it was going to be written into the storyline. And we didn't necessarily want it to be TJ to have a baby, but we thought it would be a very interesting storyline, being in the circumstance we were in, to have someone be pregnant. And then Brad and Rob got up and they left my trailer, and Brad shook his head and he's like, this always happens to us. And that was funny. But it worked out. And to answer your question, no, it's been a great adjustment. At the end of the day, I feel like it's to be a mother and to have my kids, they sort of balance out my career. I feel like work is so much fun. It's a refuge from home, and then my home is a nice distraction from waiting for your phone to ring and the next job to come in.
Now, so at some point, younger actors, they become parents and they have the families, and at some point, some of them decide, okay, I'm going to take time off from acting, and I'm just going to go concentrate on my family. Do you anticipate, because your career is on the rise right now, and your kids are of an age that it almost seems like you would get to the point where you're going to be that top shelf A-list, that everybody is after, just at the point where it's time to decide where you're going to concentrate on. Are you anticipating that kind of a dilemma at any point, or no? No.
My goal has always been and will always be that my kids will come with me. And if we educate in a hotel, or if they get into a different school, then that's fine with me. I feel like the value of education for me, anyways, I feel like my kids will be very highly educated, traveling with me and being around me. And the nice thing about, particularly about being a female actor, is that you're usually, unless you're Angelina Jolie or Charlize Theron or one of these actresses that really are the title characters, you're 2nd or 3rd or 4th on the call sheet, which means you're not working as much. I mean, on Stargate we had such a big ensemble cast, and if you notice, that's really the way television is going. It's a little less of the Alias. And even Alias, they, around season 3 or 4, Jennifer Gardner was like, I'm tired. You have to bring on more characters because it's a lot of work. If it's or Tom on Smallville, and he's tired. It's a lot of work. I mean, that guy's there every day, all day. They shoot until 4 in the morning on Saturdays. I mean, it's a big commitment. And if you notice, a lot of television is now ensemble casts, because you get too worn out. And if you want to have any type of longevity on a show, you need to balance out the scales. And so on Stargate, I work maybe twice a week. I go in at 11, I take my kids to school, I pop something in the crock pot, I go to work, I come back, I do a few loads of laundry and read stories to my kids. I have a good life. It's really not that much work. I mean, when you're the showrunner, you're the producer, or you're, you know, the #1 star on the show, yeah. And it might get to that point, but I feel like I've set up a good foundation that will deal with it.